All right, so I think we are live, and welcome everyone to the Corridor. This is the first episode ever of the Corridor, and the Corridor is basically just a podcast to have conversations about people that are doing work in the corridor, right, for Puerto Rico. Latinos that are doing work for all the Latinos and everyone else in between that's interested in this space. And in today's first episode, we have Jose Pinero, and I couldn't have a better, first guest. Really Puerto Rican, fellow Puerto Rican, and also, of course, very embedded in the VC startup world as well. So, Jose, welcome to the Corridor. And I want to start with something that I think is going to catch maybe some people off guard, because when people hear about executive director of a Latino VC nonprofit, they may picture a specific kind of background, right? And you have a very interesting background. You come from Microsoft, Procter Gamble, right? 20 plus years in corporate leadership in general. So how does a guy like you end up doing this?
So first of all, Angel, thank you so much for having me. I am thrilled to be on your first ever episode of the Corridor podcast. I think what you're doing is so needed. We'll talk about this, all these things, all these opportunities, all these challenges. But I'm super excited to be here with you, Angel, and I commend you for doing this work to empower people, bring the message, and open the corridor so we can have, we can have traffic, we can have people creating, growing, and succeeding. So, mira, I am a Puerto Rican, I am a Boricua, I was born in Puerto Rico, and I have been pretty lucky with my career. When I think of myself, my career at the end of the day, it's about helping people like you and me and your audience get access to the rooms that sometimes we were not invited to. So my personal motto, my slogan is I want to leave things better than I found them. And you and I are fine right now, right? I want our kids and the future generations of Latinos, Latinas, Puerto Ricans to have the same or better opportunities than us. So to me, all this work that I do, it's about how do we provide resources, access, information, best practices, advice, coaching, support, so that our people, Latinos, Latinas, Puerto Ricans, Mexicans, can achieve more success. And my career has been kind of interesting. I was born in Puerto Rico, finished high school in Puerto Rico in Isla Verde, and then I went to Cornell on university for undergrad. Then I went to Georgetown for an MBA, and then worked at Procter Gamble for a few years. Loved it. Did marketing, brand management, all those fun things. And then somebody from Microsoft found me at a Hispanic MBA conference in Los Angeles. So I was in LA. I was, in a conference, and somebody took my name and my phone number at the time. And then a few months later, I was moving to Seattle, Washington to work for Microsoft. And Microsoft was a wonderful experience, big leagues, growing company. And I did tons of different jobs, from marketing, product strategy. They sent me back to Puerto Rico, where I led all the marketing for the Caribbean. Then at some point, I went back to the mothership. And at some point, Angel, they asked me to lead this thing called diversity and multicultural marketing for the entire company. And that was, how do we market our products and services to all groups, not only Latinos, but African Americans, women, LGBTQ, different abilities, all that. And that job really changed my life, because I became the voice of Microsoft, not only to the Latino community, but to all these other groups. And in that job, I thought things were fine, and that, hey, some challenges, some things are good, some things are not so good. But in that job, my eyes were open. That's where I saw things are not the same. The opportunities for people like us, for African Americans, for women, they're not the same. And I could not accept it. I'm like, this is wrong. We need to fix this. And in that point, I made a conscious decision, and I said, this is my life mission. I need to be here as a conduit, as a bridge, as a corridor, to help connect things and to make things better for people like us and for other underrepresented groups. So since that, and that was about 20 years ago, my career has been about making a difference empowering people, bringing resources, bringing information, building bridges so that people like us can succeed. And I'll tell you more about some of the things I've done, but that's the genesis of my career.
Mm-hmm.
And I have done a lot of work to empower Latinos through coaching, professional development, the seminars that I do for tons of companies. But in the last year, my focus has been on using capital as a lever. Why? Because the money decides who gets funded, who creates companies, who has the power and the decision-making ability to decide what gets invested, how do we grow our people, and that not only creates great companies, creates jobs, creates wealth, and the ability for our people to succeed in the future. So I've been leading Somos VC, this 501c3 nonprofit, focused on helping Latinos and Latinas and allies succeed in capital, because I think that money, capital, it's a huge lever, and that's how you and I connected. So I'll stop there because I know it was a long story, but
No.
that's the genesis of what I do. And if anybody has any ideas or any requests or any suggestions on how to make things better for our people, please reach out to me because I want to talk to you. I think that we are here to make a difference, and we need this. It's our mission. It's what we need to do. As you can see, I'm very passionate about this.
No, that's why that's why I wanted you on the first one, because you had that pep and you had that passion that uh I love your passion for these things, and I love that there's not necessarily that many people in the world like that, and you're one of them. So you're definitely a powerful person right now, and that you have a lot of followers, right? That listen to you, that believe in what you're doing, and I'm one of them. And again, that's why I wanted to bring you in. But so you started with Somos VC in not that long ago, right? In
Last
2025,
September. Yes,
last
last September.
September. Okay, so you're relatively new to that seed. So when you first got there, what was the first thing that surprised you, right, about the actual state of the work that you signed up for?
Yeah. So I suspected or thought, hey, the same thing. It's analogous to the corporate world, right? There aren't enough Latinos and Latinas in the corporate world, right? We need more of them at the high level. So I thought the same thing is happening in capital, in the VC community, in founders. But what was surprising was the actual exact numbers. Right now, if you look at all the VC firms that have more than $100 million in AUM, assets under management, 79% of those firms don't have Latinos or Latinas. Okay. If you look at Latinos and Latinas across all investment professionals in the US, we are only 1.6%, less than 2% of investment professionals amongst the firms that have more than $100 million are Latinos. We are less than 2% of that, right? So I'm like, okay, how can we get going? How can we make a difference? And that's why Somos does all this work to get more Latinos and Latinas into the venture profession. We have professional development programs. We have a fellowship to get people into the venture profession. We have other programs like Avanza to get people who are pre-partner VCs to get to the next level. We have other things like a mentorship to get people from the mid-level to the upper level. We need to help our people accelerate their growth and have access to the opportunities. So it was not a complete surprise. The actual numbers were surprising. They were lower than what I expected.
They were lower than what you expected. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and you're naturally, like you mentioned about being the top coach, and you're naturally recognized for that, to be a top coach for Latinos. And you created something called the Latino Career Test,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken. So
Yeah.
that work, it's about helping individual people navigate, right, a
Yeah.
system that was
Yeah.
not built for them.
Yeah.
Somos VC is about changing the system itself.
Correct.
So to me, those feel kind of like different bets, right? How do you connect those two, or how do you connect them personally?
Yeah. My main focus right now is to grow Latinos and Latinas in venture. My day job is Somos VC, and I love it. I love the community, love the people, love how smart people are, love people that want to make a difference. I'm here right now in Oakland, outside next to San Francisco. Yesterday, we did an event where we brought together the Black community with Black VC and the Somos VC community coming together to start planning how can we affect policy. So legislation, lawmakers, how can we educate them so there will be more legislation and more programs that will help us, right? So I'm super passionate about that. I have done a lot of coaching and a lot of professional development. I have done tons of coachings for companies that you know, the Nikes, Netflix, TikTok, Facebook, Merck, Ford, Amazon, you name it, Microsoft. And that's something that I do when people ask me to do that, and I give a lot of speeches and seminars. And then the Latino Career Test, something I thought, hey, there's Myers-Briggs, there's the Enneagram, all these tests. There isn't one just for Latinos. So I created it, and that lives out there, and people find it, people use it. And I think it's really helpful because it has 7 archetypes, and people can see, oh, wait, I am this archetype. I'm like a colibri, or I am like a jaguar. That's why I act the way I act. That's why I like these things. And it's just insights to help people make better decisions. But I'm super focused on, hey, how do we drive capital? How do we bring more people into the industry, into innovation? Because I think that's the future, and that's a huge lever. So I'm super passionate about that.
Cool. So this gives us a sort of like a rounded, right, bird's eye view of your
Yeah,
background.
yeah,
And before we go deeper, though, again, a guy from Microsoft P&G background, right, running a Latino VC nonprofit. At any given point, did anyone say, "Hey, Jose, your family, friends, like, what are you doing?" Right, like it's not necessarily like a normal, right, traditional transition. So,
yeah.
what do you say to those people?
Well, I'm here to make a difference. I'm here to make things better for people like us. I'm here to create better opportunities for our kids and the generations that are coming back. And I see how all this is connected with the same thread, which is leaving things better, making a difference, educating, supporting, empowering our people. I love when sometimes people underestimate us, right? Look at Bad Bunny, underestimated. People thought, oh, he's fine, and he's just whatever rap singer. Look what he has done. He was underestimated, and I think there's an opportunity here because we need to put a spotlight on the people that are role models and that are creating new opportunities, right? So to me, it all makes sense. And yeah, like people kind of joke that, I have moved so many times. People lost track of where I'm living. I was in Puerto Rico for the last 2 years. I just moved back to Washington State. And most likely in the beginning of next year, I'll go back and forth to Puerto Rico and Washington. It's okay. I'm used to people sometimes not wondering where do I live or what's the latest. It's all good.
That's good. That's good. All right. So let's get a little bit deeper into the data, right? Because like you said, I
Yeah,
think most people don't even realize how bad the numbers actually are, right? And like you
yeah,
said, Somos VC has published that less than 2% of partner level investment
yeah,
professionals are Latinos, right?
yeah,
In a country where there's 20%, right, of us are Latinos,
yeah,
and 86% or something like that of institutional VC firms have zero Latino investment,
yeah,
right,
yeah,
or team members for that matter.
yeah, yeah,
So when you say those numbers out loud, people in the room, right? What is the actual reaction that you get? Like when you go to
yeah,
these conferences or a workshop or whatever, like what is that reaction?
yeah. So people are surprised. Okay, that's the first reaction. Second reaction, they start asking, what can we do? We don't know where to start, and that's where we come in because I think that the lack of Latinos in VC is not because of lack of talent. It's because of lack of access and also lack of visibility. What I tell people is we, Somos VC, we're building the infrastructure for the next generation of VCs, and we want Latinos to be part of that. And I think that the people want to do the right thing. I think the infrastructure is still catching up. So a lot of the work is about access and visibility. because when I talk to a lot of VCs and I ask them, hey, how did you get into this career? The answers I get the most are, I met somebody, or I knew somebody, or a friend of mine talked to me about a job. Somebody called me and said, hey, this company's hiring. When they heard about it, they're like, I don't know whether I can do that. I don't know whether I'm qualified. And one thing led to another, and they got the job, right? Think about that. This is kind of, people are kind of falling into this career. What if we do deliberate and proactive programs to educate more people and to say, hey, here's the roadmap. If you're very smart and you're good with X, Y, and Z, here are potential entry points for you. Hey, you're interested in entrepreneurship, going into this, you become either a founder, an operator. At some point, we have a path for people who were senior operators or who want to become angel investors. There are many ways, but we have to tell people, because up to now, it's kind of random that people get into the industry. So a lot of our people don't know what this is. They go, venture, what is that? How is that different from private equity? How is that different from private credit? How is that different from investment banking, right? We need to explain that. So I think there's a lot of work that we need to do. And we want to work across the full capital stack, both the talent and the money. So we want to bring more people into the career. We want to help those people grow. And also we want to put a spotlight on emerging managers. So people that are on fund one or fund two or fund three, and help them grow basically at the amount of money they manage, the assets under management. That's why we do the emerging manager showcase. We did it 2 weeks in Los Angeles to highlight 5 emerging managers so that more and more investors will also put money, right? So it's a lot of work that we're doing together to connect investors, GPs, LPs, founders, and also other ecosystem leaders so that we can say, hey, here's a good path for most people. Let's build that, let's promote it, and let's help more people. And the research is very important. We're actually right now building the next wave of the research. So we'll release that in the next couple of months. But I'm dying to see the numbers, to see how
Yeah,
much things have changed. Yeah.
definitely. So you guys have been, I mean, Somos VC, and then you coming in, right? They have been building this for years, and you've been
Yep.
already there for
5 years.
quite some times, right? And this is maybe your time to brag a little bit, right? So what do you think have actually changed, right, since Somos
Yep.
VC started, right? And
Yep.
what's measurably different than it was 5 years ago?
Yeah. So I would say that we have very strong, solid professional development programs in place. We have something called the fellowship, we have a mentorship, we have Avanza, we have our summit, we have the emerging manager showcase. So we have programs that help people move through the careers, and those programs already have been running for version 2, version 3, in some cases version 4. And that's a resource, and people are using it. For example, for the emerging manager showcase, we got about 50 applicants to present. We chose the top 5, right? So those programs are there. The putting the spotlight on emerging managers, I think we're doing a good job at showing them. I think we need to do more to bring LPs, the investors, to connect with the GPs and the emerging managers. So all those things are in place. I think we're going to grow the data part. So we are not only doing the update on the last research, but we're going to grow that survey and that data, because to me, data, the numbers tell the story, and it's a very compelling number. And I don't think that people should invest or put money into Latino GPs or emerging managers just because it's a nice to do thing. I think investors should do this because there's alpha there. There's an opportunity that other emerging managers may not see, because we have access to different founders, different networks, different relationships. So to me, it's because it's a good business practice that ultimately will deliver more results, more distribution and all that. So yeah, I think we have a lot of good things in place. I think we want to grow even more on the data side. We're also doing some work on the policy side to influence state legislators and other people. And I think we want to also expand the programs. So I think that we have a very solid base. We need to continue growing the distribution of the programs and get more people through them.
So one thing I want to sort of understand is that there's the argument for investing in Latino-led funds, right? It's not just a diversity argument. There's
No, it shouldn't
climate
be.
arguments, right? Market
Yeah,
access argument,
yeah.
a bunch. Why do you think why is the broader VC industry, right, still not responding to that? Like what do you think is the real reason?
I think it's the infrastructure for visibility is not there. And the second thing, this industry is based on networks and relationships. Hey, somebody meets you, Angel, today, and they go, okay, great guy, like what he's doing, etc. They're not, if you're raising a fund, they're not going to write a check to you 3 months from now. They're going to continue building the relationship, stay in touch with you, seeing what you're building, hearing about your updates, seeing what kind of traction you're getting, and you're building that relationship and that trust. You invest now, you plant the seeds so that somebody will write a check to you 1, 2, or 3 years from now. And that's how it's a small industry in that sense. And people care about the relationships and the network, right? So we need to get people into the funnel, so that people get to know them. And then over time, they build a relationship, they nurture it, and then they invest. So that's why visibility and access is so important. And a lot of our work is how do we put a spotlight? How do we connect LPs to GPs? A lot of this is doing small events, dinners, where people connect with each other. They start sharing experiences. People like to do business with people they like and people they trust. So we have to create those spaces for us to be there. And Latinos and Latinas, we were not invited, right? Like there's also something interesting here. In this industry, investors, they love pattern recognition, they love familiarity, they love what they know, right? So if you didn't go to Stanford or Harvard and you did not follow the same cookie cutter model as somebody else, it's harder. It's harder for people to make the connection. So we have to work harder to make that intro, that connection, create that relationship.
Definitely. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about Somos VC, and what you guys actually do on a day to day, right? Because I think that when a lot of people also think about nonprofit, right, they picture like awareness campaigns and things like
Mhm.
that, right? But of course, your programs that you guys run are much more like operational, right,
Yeah,
than just that. So walk me through the
yeah,
Somos VC sort of program stack, right? And if
yeah,
you have to pick one of those, right?
yeah.
What is the most underrated one that you think you have currently in your stack?
Yeah. So Somos VC, you're absolutely right. We run like a startup. Like we are a very small team with virtual assistants and support, and we basically run a series of professional development programs to help people get into the career and then accelerate their growth in the career. And on top of that, we also do a lot of, call it advocacy work, so sharing the message, right? We do a lot of work putting a spotlight on emerging managers, and we do a lot of work on how do we create these connecting points, these bridges, so that GPs and LPs can connect, build relationships, etc. And we're also looking at the ecosystem to understand where are the gaps or where do people fall through. So, for example, so it's very programmatic. The fellowship, I would say, it's probably one of our leading programs. The fellowship is the one that we run every year to bring new people into the venture capital profession. And I'm happy to share that we have not only or we have done this probably a handful of times, and we have people who are very successful who are now officially VCs, and they came into the profession because of us. um, I think the number, I believe, it's about 65 people have gone through the program, and the great majority of them are investors or professionals at the mid to upper mid level in VC firms. We have people on our board who connected with someone through the fellowship. So that's super successful, and I'm looking for ways to increase the reach of that. The mentorship, it's getting people to connect who are kind of mid-level with senior people and have somebody they can talk to, and they can share ideas and get feedback. I have a great story on the mentorship. There's a woman called Monique Villa Capra. She created Day Trip Ventures, and she's also now on our board of directors. And she's where she is today because she participated in the Somos VC mentorship. And we connected her with Miriam Rivera, which I don't know whether you know Miriam. Miriam is the co-founder of Ulu Ventures. She is one of the most successful Latina or Latino venture capitalists in the world. She's a wonderful person, and because we connected Monique with Miriam, Monique now is launching her own fund after a very successful career. So we have a lot of success stories around that. We have also the Avanza program, which is for pre-partner VCs to get to the next level. And we're also working on a couple new things to expand that. So it's very programmatic. So we just did the emerging manager showcase. We're doing the policy work, the mentorship runs, the fellowship runs in the fall. We typically do the summit where we bring all of our community together, and we also have the power to convene people. We can bring super senior LPs, super senior GPs, rock stars like Santi Subutowski, who spoke at our event. We had Jose Fernandez, Puerto Rican also, from Stepstone Capital. He's a co-founder of and CEO of Stepstone. He spoke at our event 2 weeks ago. And having access to leaders like that, people that have built amazing businesses, amazing careers, and having people be able to directly talk to them and ask questions, it's something that is really super valuable. So yeah, so we run like a company, right? We run like an organization. We have programs, we have operations, we have marketing. Of course, we have fundraising because we need to raise funds to support our operation. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's like a startup. It's very, very people say, "Oh, do you behave more like a nonprofit?" I think we behave more like a startup because we're moving things and we want to grow our impact. So we're doing a lot.
Very cool. And the emerging manager showcase you mentioned, that's designed basically to help fund managers access capital, right?
Exactly.
And just to maybe see how if like the challenges, right, that you see maybe these fund managers having right now. What is that biggest
Yeah.
barrier that you think that Latino fund manager faces right now versus the non-Latino ones?
Well, let me just say, fundraising for VCs right now it's difficult. It's a very difficult period right now. There has been a lot of concentration. There was contraction in the number of VC firms from 2-3 years ago, and then also if you look at like PitchBook data, 65% last year, 2025, 65% of all the VC deals went to AI. So if somebody was not in an AI company, it was really, or investing in AI, it was really hard to get money. So I think that and of course these are like ups and downs, regular cycles, but I think the biggest challenge that underrepresented, whether it's Latinos or African American, it's that we haven't had access to some of the rooms, some of the conversations, so we're catching up, right? So, and when things get tight, people run towards familiarity, what they know, what is proven. And also in VC, it's very interesting. Like, firms, they look at each other and they go, okay, who goes in, who leads the round? And, it's interesting because almost nobody wants to go alone, right? Everybody looks at each other. Okay, are you going in? Okay, then I go in. So having those relationships is more important than ever. So again, a lot of it is access, visibility, and building that infrastructure so that people can come into the rooms and into the conversations.
And all this VC sort of and this is something again that you can agree or disagree, but it feels that the Latino VC story is more of a West Coast story, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
there's in the East Coast, right? Like I feel there's missing conversations in places like New York, Miami,
Yeah.
Chicago, places like that where actually the diaspora is actually living at,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or most of it is living there, right? So like why do you think this is the case, right? And is there anything that you feel that that's not necessarily happening, and why is it that again, if you agree, that's the first thing. But
Yeah.
that's how I feel. That it's like a West Coast story.
Yeah, I think it's across the board. So I just look at the data a couple days ago. Like, of course, the biggest market is the West Coast. Second, it's New York, and then Miami. It's like it's kind of
Mhm.
third. Um, and we have really good. Actually, I was looking at some data of our own composition. We have tons of people in Miami. We have tons of people in New York. We do a lot of events in California, and I'm thinking I need to do something in New York pretty soon because we have so many people. So it's I would say it's pretty much the same issue across the board. And you know I know we have great we have some great people like Samara Mejia Hernandez from Chingona Ventures in Chicago. But I would say, of course, the biggest concentration of deals and VCs is in California, then second New York, then for us third would be Miami. All good, all good. I think that especially because there's the concentration. So I mentioned the part about AI. A lot of the deals and the money went to AI, and also a big chunk of the deals were done by the super mega large VCs. So the Andreessen Horowitz of the world, all like so. When there's concentration, whether it's on firms or the capital, the networks matter even more. And that's why we, like Somos VC, we have to work harder at nurturing the networks. Because if the Latino investors and emerging managers, if they're not connected to LPs, to the platforms, to the decision makers, then the gap becomes bigger. And I'm here to make that gap smaller and to build bridges like you're doing with the corridor. So we provide the network, we provide the data, we provide the leadership infrastructure, and we have to do work in California, in New York, in Miami. Those are the first three places where we are doing work, but it needs to be done.
Cool. So let me know when you guys come here to New York. For
Yeah,
sure.
let's do an event. Let's do an event together.
Let's do it. Let's do it. So let me ask you a more of a sort of personal question, right?
Yeah.
Like, what is the most sort of unexpected place that you ever found a founder before? Like a good founder that you thought, how did I miss this person, right?
um, I'm thinking. I'm thinking what would be. I'll give you a slightly different answer.
Okay.
I have been in conversations when you meet somebody and you're like, this sounds a little bit, you know, unlikely, or a little bit low probability of success. And I would say a long time ago, when I heard conversations like that, I would be like, I don't think this is going to happen. And I have been wrong. There's some people that had crazy dreams, and then you talk to them a year later, and they build the thing, and they launched the fund, or they created the company. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and I talked to his co-founder, and I talked to this guy during the pandemic, 2021 or so. Um, 2020 or so, and he told me his dream and he was going to do all these things, and I'm like, not sure he's going to. They did it. They raised their first fund, and now they're raising their second fund. So to me, the lesson is, don't underestimate somebody that has so much drive and so much commitment to doing something, because many times they'll find a way. And if a door closes, they look for a window. If this way doesn't work, they try something else. And that's something that I think it's very important for us Latinos and
Hmm.
Puerto Ricans also. We tend to take the no too easily. We go and have an idea, we pitch to somebody, and they say, I'm not sure, or I don't think so, or no. And we automatically or too quickly say, well, it doesn't work. Let me do something else. And we need to be more persistent. And Angel, you and I, and founders and investors and VCs, we are in the rejection business. What that means, we're going to ask something to 100 people, and 97 of them are going to say no. Right? When you're raising a fund, or when you're looking for funding for your startup, you're going to ask 100 people, and probably 3 people will say yes. But you don't know whether it's person 3, person 47, or
Right.
person 96. We don't know, right? So I think And in our culture, and this is very Puerto Rican and very Latino, and I talk to about Latino values in some seminars and some things. We worry too much about what would people think. We worry too much about looking like a failure,
Mhm.
and we worry too much about feeling bad. And I think we need to be more persistent and say, hey, another no, it gets me closer to a yes. It just means I need to either try with other people, test other approaches, look for an alternative, optimize or modify what I have. But we need to keep going because nobody that I have met that has achieved something amazing didn't have failures. They fail at something brutally in a big way. And sometimes we Latinos, we think that, oh, this person is successful. Everything worked. Everything was perfect. Everything was yet. No, it was a story of failure one after another until they stumble or found something that worked. So I think it's important for our people to understand that, hey, you need to be persistent. You need to keep asking. You're going to get a lot of no's. And hey, in the moment you feel bad for a day, and then get going. Try something different. And
Definitely.
we all have to do that.
Definitely. So this, you guys are doing amazing work with Somos VC, and I respect everything you guys are doing. But what does it look like for Somos VC for the next 10 years? Like, what do you expect, for example, or what do you picture, right, 10 years
Yeah.
from now that the ecosystem will look like?
Yeah. Well, I want to significantly increase the number of Latinos and Latinas who are in the VC profession. I want to significantly increase the AUM, the amount of money that they're managing. Um, I want to see more companies funded. And there's data when members of the Somos VC community, who are, they're VC firms, which are Latino-led, when we invest, 48% of the founders of the companies are from diverse background or people of color. So we tend to invest more in diverse founders also. So even better, and those founders also hire people. So it's all great. I want also Somos VC to be the definitive infrastructure platform for Latinos and Latinas in venture. And I want us to have the data. I want us to have the resources. I want us to have the systems that connect the network and that help people have more visibility and the tools for them to succeed. So I'm building the infrastructure for this thing to live for the next 10 years or so or more because it's needed. And I want any young person who's very smart to say, hey, I heard something. I'm interested in entrepreneurship or in investment or in VC. Where do I go? Come to us. We'll give you the tools and the systems to support, and will accelerate your network in this. So I think that there's a lot to do. I want to see more. I want to see more Latino billionaires. I want to see more Latino, having successful exits. I want to see more Latinos saying, "Hey, because I was here, I was able to fund all these amazing things." We do work with foundations. So we did an event yesterday with the Capor Foundation. They're one of our partners. It's wonderful that they have the funds, the money, the resources to not only drive business, to help create companies, to support nonprofits like us, but to also do amazing work to improve communities. That's amazing, right? So I have big dreams for this, and I think we're just getting started.
Definitely. So let me just to close this almost
Hmm.
VC part, right? In terms of those are the 10 years from now, right?
Yeah,
But what do you think have to change at the institutional level, right? So LPs, funds, structures,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
University pipelines, whatever it is, for
yeah,
any of this to actually stick.
yeah. I think the next step is the stronger LP integration because we need to get LPs. They love exploring ideas. They love looking at new opportunities. And I think we are kind of an under-tapped market. So we have to do a lot of work connecting with LPs. I'm having a call with an LP right after this meeting because we're building how do we design the program so that it's easy for LPs to get connected to GPs and make the information exchange and the relationship easy. I think that's next. On the institutional side, here's the challenge. The big pension funds, like the California retirement plan, the Teachers Association from different states, those, because of they are huge, they are not set up to invest in emerging managers. Okay. So I heard Jose Fernandez say a couple of weeks ago that they rarely invest into a fund that is less than $100 million. Okay. So they have done it a couple times, but they rarely do, right? Because they're not set up that way. So trying to get more emerging managers or more VCs to become institutionalized ready, that's farther out. I think the big opportunity is LP engagement, get more visibility into those managers and get that going so that we can have more funds. And the network effect happens. The more LPs get involved, the more they tell other LPs, and that grows. So I think that's the next frontier for us. And then data. I love data. I love research. So I'm looking right now, how do we optimize this? So not only we can share the information on the snapshot of where we are, but also clearly identify where the issues are, where people fall through, where somebody has a hard time going from fund 1 to fund 2. What is driving that? And then what can we do to fix that?
Awesome. So, Jose, this was amazing. I think that the audience, right, whoever listens to this, it's going to have a lot of background, right, of what Somos VC is, the work that you guys have done, amazing, and the work that you guys have planned for the next 10, 15, 20 years. I'm excited to again follow you guys and keep watching what you guys are doing. But one last question before we go, because I know you like music, and the first time I met you, had like a AC/DC shirt, I believe.
Yeah.
So this is totally off topic, but if Somos VC were a song, what song would that be?
Well, that's a great question. Let me think about it. Okay, so here's the answer I'm going to give.
All right.
I will choose the song from the band Queen. Freddie Mercury, Brian May, Roger Taylor, John Deacon. I'm a big fan of Queen. And the song is called Don't Stop Me Now.
Okay.
It's called Don't Stop Me Now. And the chorus says, Don't stop me now. I'm having such a good time. I'm having a ball. Don't stop me now. Because I think we're getting going. We have great momentum. I love the community. There's a lot of energy. We grew the board of our organization. We also created a senior advisory board with amazing leaders like Tom Chavez, Miriam Rivera, Samara Mejia Hernandez, Sergio Roble, Victor Echevarria, Dan Portillo, Rami Reyes, amazing top Latino VCs. They are in our senior advisory board, and we're getting going. And we know that there's so much that we need to do and can do. And I think momentum is really important. Momentum brings more momentum, right? And to me, speed, taking action, responsiveness is huge. So we want to move forward and we want to do things fast. So that's why I'm choosing Don't Stop Me Now.
Awesome. Well, Jose, this was great, amazing. Thank you for telling us your story. Thank you for talking a lot about what your work, right, and what you're doing with Somos VC. And before we go though, how can people connect with you, and where can they find you?
Yeah. So my request to your audience, if you're a Latino, Latina, or ally, please join Somos VC. Just get involved, sign for the newsletter, follow us on LinkedIn, support each other. Stop working in isolation. I want more LPs to take meetings with us. I want you to be part of this community. I want you to be included. We want to provide resources to you. And I think that we achieve much more if we work together. So please follow us. Follow us on LinkedIn, Somos VC. Check our website. And if you have anything, please write to me directly, either on LinkedIn or Jose@somos.vc. So it's easy, Jose@somos.vc. So we're here to make a difference. Okay. I strongly believe that things happen when people are committed to taking action and when people are driven, persistent, relentless, and get things going. So I think there's a huge opportunity for us. I want more of us to succeed and to become the role models for the next generation. So please, join us. And if you have any ideas on anything you want to do, anything you think we should be doing, any feedback, please reach out to me. I'll be super happy to have the conversation. And sometimes the best ideas come from different places. So it's great to hear from people.
Awesome, Jose. You're great, amazing. Thank you for that, and everyone. Connect with Jose if it's relevant to you, right? But this was amazing. Again, thank you for being here. Thank you for your time. I know we went a little bit over, what we had talked about, but sorry about that. But you have a lot to say, and I really appreciate that. Well, everyone, this was the first episode of the Corridor, the podcast, basically where we have conversation about people are doing the work in the corridor for all Latinos, basically. And Jose, thank you for being here again.
Thank you so much. Thank you for doing this work, Angel. This is super important. Thank you for being a voice representing us. So I want to, thank you and wish you great success.
Thank you, Jose. Thank you so much.